Approximately 1 in 5 people suffer from an autoimmune disease. An autoimmune disease is a condition arising from an abnormal immune response to a normal body part. There are at least 80 types of autoimmune diseases. The cause is generally unknown. Some autoimmune diseases, such as lupus, run in families, and certain cases may be triggered by infection or environmental factors. Some common diseases that are generally considered autoimmune include celiac disease, diabetes type 1, Graves' disease, inflammatory bowel disease, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and Hashimoto's. We recognize that you need some help if you are suffering from one of these autoimmune diseases. That is why we have created our therapeutic autoimmune program. The program is a 13-week program in which you'll have weekly check-in calls with your very own nutrition coach. Your nutrition coach will help you out with all things nutrition and lifestyle to help you better your symptoms. If you are suffering from an autoimmune disease, you do not have to do it alone. The team at The Chief Life are here to support you 100% of the way. You can find out more about the therapeutic autoimmune program on our website, www.thechieflife.com, and look underneath the nutrition tab. Guys, what is up? I just wanted to quickly let you know that we are now running free nutrition consults at www.thechieflife.com. You can book in for a quick 15-minute consult where we get to talk about all things nutrition, all things lifestyle with one of our fantastic nutrition coaches. So if that is something that you feel you are in need of, please jump across to www.thechieflife.com. Can't wait to see you guys booking in. Welcome to the Chief Life Podcast,
where we deliver guests and knowledge from around the world right to your ears.
Focusing on nutrition, exercise, health, and wellness.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Team, welcome back to the Chief Life Podcast. I am Matthias Turner, joined today by Shaun Diachkoff. Shaun, welcome, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
So, I mean, you're in Sydney. You run a gym called Accelerate Strength, and you guys also have your own podcast, which is Accelerate Strength Podcast. What I'd like to do, dude, firstly, is let's just dive into your background a little bit. Like pre-gym days, what were you doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask this to a lot of our clients. I say to them, like, about myself and my business partner. I'm like, what do you guys think we used to do before we started the gym? Like, what sort of career path do you think we followed? And they're like, oh, I don't know, like a PT or some like trainer guy or something like that. I'm like, no, we're actually engineers. We're like aircraft maintenance engineers. So we both, Matt did 14 years in the Army and I did 6 years in the Navy, and then worked as a contractor to the Army and Navy for a number of years after that. Yeah. And essentially I fixed like automatic flight control systems, radars, radios, like all that stuff. And it's got absolutely zero to do with business, which was sort of good and sort of bad, because if I knew how hard business was, I don't know whether I would have started it. So it was good to be a bit naive. Yeah. But I think what it did do was to move in, especially into a space like a CrossFit gym. The aircraft world is very systemized and process driven, and it just sort of gave us a really good, what could you say, like insight into like troubleshooting and when you do find a problem, like there has to be a fix to it. Yeah. Like, because the helicopter has to fly again, right? Yeah. So just like a business, if your leads are stuck or if something's stuck or your client can't do a pull up or a toaster bar, like, you know, people can do toaster bars and pull ups. So like, what do we need to fix? Like, where do we look at it? So it sort of gave us that like, deeper thinking. But yeah, definitely not a start that most gym owners would have had, I don't think.
Nah, dude, that's kind of cool. Yeah. And I really like that outlook on it. And I grew up on a farm when I was younger, and we were kind of in the same point where you had no one to come and help, so you had to just figure it out yourself. And it's kind of been a great, I guess, foundation for me coming into business is, well, this is not working right now, so how do we fix it? And luckily enough, you can get help now, which is awesome. And building a team is probably one of the first battles, I guess, an entrepreneur needs to go through. But that first understanding of like, well, it's broken, so we just need to fix it, and it's not going to work until you fix it is kind of a really cool way to do it, rather than saying, well, I'll just sideline that and I'll get back to it. It's like, I don't know, it almost puts you in the grind and you just want to get through it. You want to get it done. Because I don't know, I'm a stubborn person anyway, so that probably helps as well.
I'd agree. I'm the same. Definitely stubborn. My wife would probably agree too.
Yeah, mine definitely would. So for you, dude, like coming out of the army, why? What? Like obviously you came out and then you started doing some contractor work back to the army. Was that kind of like you just need to get out and then you found that you could still work within that same system? Yeah.
So the way it worked was I signed up to the Navy for like a set amount of years. I had to do 6 years with them. And while it was really cool to go straight into that after high school and essentially moving out of home, and, you get to go on this cool little adventure and do like recruit training and, mud runs and physical fitness and all that stuff, you still have to do what you're told all the time. And it's a very disciplined area, and especially aircraft maintenance branches within the military. Because obviously there's people's lives in those helicopters that you have to maintain. Being told what to do was okay, but being told what to do because it's the way it's always been done is something that just like dug at me all the time, because there's just old school mentalities, and it's a bit of a boys club in the military after a few years. So I just knew I could do things better or faster or more efficient, or, get more jobs done. So a few of my friends worked for a company called British Aerospace, and I just went and applied for a job there. And as soon as I went into there, they saw that like initiative and stuff that I had, and I soon like rose the ranks really quickly to like almost a ceiling rank that I could get to at that age at like 24, 25.
Yeah,
I was almost managing teams and like managing multi-million-dollar contracts for the like deeper level maintenance of military stuff. And that's sort of like why I left. It just didn't really sit well to be told what to do, because like that's what you do.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Business owners don't do that.
No, you even see that in schools still. Like I remember there was something that went on with like the P&C group when we were going through high school, and we had some people from our grade go into this essentially a meeting, and they said, hey, juniors have these uniforms that are not great looking. What should we do about them? And all of the seniors that were involved in that meeting said, well, we had to go through it, so why shouldn't they? And that's just how they voted. It's like, that's so ridiculous that that's how human beings respond, rather than it being like, hey, there's a better way that we can all do it and we can get more efficient through everything. Let's just change the system. Instead, it's like, no, stuff that we went through it, so you have to do it too. It's just so bitter.
You know what's really funny about that is they don't think of the flip side. Is they don't think of the side that made them begrudge their elders in that thing because of that.
Yeah.
So maybe if they changed it for the new people, then they wouldn't begrudge them, and they'd hold them to a higher standard, or they'd think more fondly of them, rather than hating their bosses because they're dicks or something.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's it's only going to get worse really with the way that the world's going, with instant gratification at the press of a finger. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in like 10, 15 years for sure.
Yep.
So starting up a gym, how did you make the shift from working on helicopters and aircrafts to be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm kind of done here, I want to try fitness world?
Yeah, I did CrossFit. Everyone does it. Like everyone does CrossFit. They go and train at a CrossFit box, and they're like, man, I can do this better. That's sort of like the start for most people. I thought of it a little more smartly, I guess you could say. Instead of just like diving in and throwing some cash at it and buying all my stuff from Rogue and like saying I have the coolest box in town, I went and worked for a couple of other people. So I had a couple of cool mentors to begin with at the start. Both of those gyms have actually like changed hands or sold out or moved on now. So they're not around anymore, for numerous reasons, but they're both not there. And it was just cool to sort of learn the ropes without having any like skin in the game or any risk in it. The risk was leaving a full-time career, getting paid, 6 figures in aircraft maintenance and a good job. which you could stay till retirement and like die there essentially, without having to do much. Just don't kill anyone in a helicopter crash. And then, so going and working for these people and training at a few gyms, you sort of just get to know like what things are good, what things are bad, and just take all that experience into wanting to do it yourself. And then, my business partner, Matt, he sort of felt the same way. We had we got introduced at Holsworthy at the army base out there, and he'd just come back from some long service leave. And, someone said, oh, look, a mutual friend of ours said, oh, hey, you guys should do a workout together. You're both like CrossFitters.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, when if you did a kettlebell swing in a park and some burpees, like you did CrossFit. That's what people thought it
exactly.
was. So we did this workout, and he wrote it up, and he'll tell the same story. It sounds a bit like I'm bragging, but he wrote up this workout, and he's like, I'm going to crush Shaun at this workout because I'm a little bit bigger than he is, like maybe 10 kilos heavier and a bit taller. He's written like burpees and kettlebell swings and box jumps and like this big format. And I ended up just wiping the floor with him. And he's like, this guy's legit. Like, we could go into business together. So that's sort of...
That's funny. That was the pass.
Literally that's all it took. And then, like I said before, like it was a bit naive, right? But we just sort of planned it out and looked at a few areas and had a friend as a silent investor throw in a little bit of cash as well. So there was 3 of us that put money in together. And then, Matty and I just got the thing off the ground and went for it. So... nothing much more than that.
So you guys didn't have any members or anything set before you started?
No, we had 0. So we looked around at a few places, and the place that we settled on, Matty actually came in and looked at it maybe a month or 2 months before we actually decided to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, nah, dude, it sucks. Like it's too small. It's not on the best street and this and that. And I went in there and I just sort of have a little bit of a different outlook. And I was like, nah, like this could work and this is good. And maybe we could do this here and the flag out the front, or like, I just had slightly different ideas. And then, we just bit the bullet and went for it. 0 members, all of our essentially life savings into it. I had a mortgage, didn't have much left in the bank after that. And it just slowly built from there. So
what does day one look like? Like, did you open doors and no one was there, or like, how'd that go? Yeah. So because it all happened fairly quickly. Like once we signed the lease and actually got the space, we did a couple of flyer drops around the place. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to do the right thing, like not putting it in people's like no junk mail letterboxes and like, just doing the right thing. And I ended up having like another 1,000 flyers in my bag after walking the local area. And I was like, how the fuck am I going to get rid of these things? Like I still got a shitload of them in my bag. So I just started going around to cars and just like leaving them under their windscreen wipers. I was like, all right, that'll get rid of you. I put 2 there, put 3 there. Yeah. And on the way back home after doing that the first time and like painting all afternoon and doing some setup stuff, we got the first call from one of our first members. And like I saw it was a random number and I was like, Matty, like, you answer it, not me. I don't want to do it. Like so nervous. Cause like we'd never taken a sales call, so to speak, from a new client. Like I'd literally never had to make phone calls in my life at my other job. Like I'd fix a wire or talk to someone there and that's it. Yeah. Not like asking someone for money. And so I was pretty nervous. But then once we had one client come in, there was probably like 2 or 3 others that sort of saw us fitting the space out, just walking by. Mm-hmm. And then just sort of rolled on from there. But day one, I think we had in our first like 6 a.m. class, maybe like 4 to 6 people. And that was my wife, one of them, and Matt's girlfriend as the other. So there was like 4 clients and 2 partners. But that was day one. Yeah. And so fast forward, how long have you guys been open for now? So we had our 5th birthday last August. Mm-hmm. So this is we're into like year 6 of operation. Like it's obviously significantly grown from that, in a new space, like a bigger space, and sign another 5-year lease. And wow. Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, Sydney's obviously a very different place to, I'm sure each major city is going to be different in their own way. Stace used to have a gym down in Sydney, and she was in Maroubra and just literally in a shop front. So it was like a little, I would have said like 3 by 9 meters. Like the space was so small. And I came from a gym up here in Brisbane that was like 1,200 square meters. So I came from this and went down. I was like, wow, like it was such a wake up call. And they weren't allowed to drop bars and they weren't allowed to do this and that. And it's just because like there wasn't a lot of space around those main areas that weren't shop fronts that were actually usable. So that was her gym. And then when she moved up, she made the choice of like, I can either grow right now, or I can go and be with Matty up in Brisbane. And that's when she shut down her gym instead and came up here, which is pretty crazy. So it's obviously quite a different thing. And I mean, we've had friends that opened up gyms down Sydney in like complete warehouse areas. What did it kind of look like for you guys? Like obviously rent down in Sydney can be quite expensive. How did it look for you guys setting up? Like you said, you saw the space and were like, no, this is awesome. But making the transition from your old space to your new space, like what does that look like? And how do you actually make the jump of saying, yes, this is a good idea?
Yeah. So we just, like in the first space, it wasn't massive. Like you were saying, like it's pretty hard to find, especially close to the city or even in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, places that you can drop bars that are, you know, multiple hundreds of square meters, warehouses that you can fit like 20, 30 clients at a time in. And spaces that aren't too close to residential and other shops and other businesses that are going to complain. The first space that we're in, I think it was around 140-ish square meters. So it wasn't huge, but it was big enough that like we're military guys, so we're very like structured and strict around like organization of classes. Like 2 lines, everyone lines up, you have your shit in order, and like that's it. You know, like it's all set, which is good for managing people. Then to move to this new space, like obviously we had some membership numbers that we had to hit, and like, you know, profit loss margins that we wanted to maintain. And if we can maintain that for a period of time, as at the same time as finding a space to move to, then awesome, like let's do it. And it just so happened that like literally as soon as we put the feelers out there, one of our clients sent us a message, and he's like, hey, look at this realestate.com place.
No way.
And it was like across the car park from where we are. So like where I'm sitting right now, I can like literally, I could hit my pitching wedge across the car park and like land it. Actually, it wouldn't even be a pitching wedge. It'd be less than that.
Stuff it, go the putter, just grub it.
Yeah, I could almost putt the ball across there. But yeah, we literally just said to the guys, like once it all sort of went through and the DA was all processed and stuff, like, hey, this weekend we're moving all the gear over. If you want to get a workout, come and move it from, you know, there to there. Yeah. And help us set up, and yeah, we went for it.
Dude, that's quite ideal.
The DA process though was super, super difficult. Like there was, you know, in a strata complex, and there's people complaining about all sorts of different things, like running in the car park and dropping barbells and clients parking in the wrong car spaces. And there's just all this stuff that clients never hear about that me as the owner just cop it left, right and center. Yeah.
I don't think there's I don't think I've heard of one good process with DA approval. Like it just doesn't happen. It doesn't seem like. I know of people who've been literally hit with the fine because they don't have it. Then they go to try get it sorted, and it doesn't get sorted for 6 to 12 months. And they're like, well, even if I did get it sorted straight away, like I still would have caught this fine anyway. I mean, just the fact that you're waiting potentially 3 to 12 months on a thing that's needed before you can open your business to run properly is pretty crazy as well. And this is like the council approval to say, hey, noise regulations, parking regulations, like the amount of people regulations, everything that goes with it. So for those who don't know what a DA approval is, that's pretty much what it comes down to, is making sure that the council say, hey, this is right and this is what we approve. The frustrating thing is that really it's just someone pushing it over the line at the end of the day, but it always takes so long.
Yep. Yeah. At the end of ours, this was actually a really cool experience for me. Was part of the process, if you get a certain number of objections or complaints against your proposal for the DA, then they immediately take it to not Land Environment Court, but there's one step before that, which was for us in the inner west of Sydney, the planning panel. And they have them once a month, and they have a guy who sits on the Supreme Court as a judge. So he's a Supreme Court justice or whatever you would call those people. And then there's 3 experts of the area who are, you know, either Land Environment Court lawyers, or they're sound engineers, or like experts in the field of like traffic and parking or acoustics or other stuff. So I just stand in front of them and tell them why the 37 objections that we got for wanting to move into this space were null and void. And luckily they took my side, giving them a little bit of a sob story and telling them that, you know, I'm an ex-military person and all these things. Yeah. And the fact that we had 0 complaints prior to wanting to move, they just said, well, obviously these guys have been doing a good job for 5 years. So yeah, like we're not going to put any restrictions on you. Just keep operating as you are, and things will be good.
No way.
And it's been fine ever since. Like, we've had no dramas at all.
That's so good. So do you have any rules around like dropping barbells or anything like that?
We don't per se, but we're just very aware that there's houses within, like 20 meters of our boundary and stuff. So like at certain times of the day, we'll program like an endurance class over a grace of 30 barbell drops for time.
Yeah.
And of a night time, we'll, have the noise at a certain level and those sorts of things, but it's easy to mitigate.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that Sydney boxers have to worry about. So.
Yeah, I mean, even here in Brisbane, there's a lot of gyms that are starting to cop that as well. Like, they have to either not drop barbells at certain times or, they have to just kind of adjust their programming, like you're saying, based around what vicinity they're located in.
Yeah, and if there's gym owners listening to this who have that sort of drama, like, the best thing you can do is go and talk to those people. Like, I have a relationship with all of the people that live near us. And a couple of times they've messaged us and said like, hey, what was going on there today? Like, it was super loud. And it's like, summer, everyone's like running around the gym and going crazy. There's an open workout going on or something. Yeah. And the music was a bit louder than it normally is. But, if I didn't have that relationship with them, then instead of coming to me and messaging me, they would message to the council. Yeah. And then I'd have council breathing down my neck. So at least I can just apologize and say, cool, sorry, our mistake. Yeah, noted. And own that. Yeah. Yeah, and then move on. So yeah, we've probably saved ourselves a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, it's embedding yourself in the community. So all it takes is either just giving them a letter in the mailbox, or actually going and knocking on the door, or doing both options. Knock on their door. If they don't answer, then have a letter kind of pre-written up just to give to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Something I did because I knew how valuable handwritten notes were back in the day when I was a straight PT is I wrote a handwritten note and then wrote it in black and I did it on an A4 page and did it in four sections, copied it like 100 times or something and chopped it up into like these 4 little cards and went and just dropped it in everyone's mailbox, and it got such a good reply, right? Like, I think people just say, oh, this guy's gone and taken the effort to write all these handwritten notes and dropped it in my mailbox. Wow, that's incredible. So yeah, got all these replies straight up. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, just to see how much a little bit of effort goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The digital version of that we've used these days is doing like videos to our clients. So instead of just sending them a text like, hey, where have you been? Yeah. It's like us, videoing ourselves saying like, hey, where have you guys been? Like, miss you, I haven't seen you for a little while or something. Yeah. So yeah, that's just the more, I don't know, today's day and age, like technology version of that.
That's sick. I had an app for a while, and it was literally like anytime someone new bought into into Chief Life, what I would do is send them a quick video, and you could see when they'd received it or whether they'd opened it or how much of the video they watched. And so it was each time it would pop up saying you've had a new sale. I'd look at the video. I'd look at the camera and say, hey, welcome to the Chief Life. Like, so cool to have you on board, and use their name, and then send it off to them. It worked pretty well. Like, I'd say there's probably a 50% rate of open, which is still pretty good for considering you're sending an email still to them. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, definitely right. It's such a good little idea just to give them some sort of human interaction, because that's really what everyone's craving.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want a face to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, something you guys is a CrossFit gym still, but something you did, which a lot of gyms are starting to do, is shifted your name away from the CrossFit standpoint, I guess, of having CrossFit in the name. So you've changed to Accelerate Strength. It used to be CrossFit Agilis.
Yep.
Yeah. Why the shift around that? Like, what's the whole mindset and thought to that? I'm a part of a gym who did the exact same thing, and I know they had their reasons around it, and I'll kind of touch on them as well. But why for you? Like, what was the big thought process around that?
Yeah, I think we were one of the first in Sydney to do it, and I saw a few others sort of follow suit soon after. But it was an idea of a mentor of ours to do it, and then we sort of mulled on it for a month or two and saw a few of the big players in the States do it. And for us, it came down to while CrossFit is a really like type A hard charging person kind of thing, and all those early adopters had sort of either come and tried CrossFit and loved it and stayed, or tried it, hated it, got injured and moved away. So what we found was all the new clients that were coming to us were not people who were like super into it and like ready to just charge hard and, do Fran and all this type of stuff. They were like middle-aged professionals who had families and like they were a little scared of the name.
Yeah.
So moving away from that into something that we felt was a little more, pushing of the strength and accelerate being like a moving fast type thing or moving towards something. We thought that would be a good name to brand too. But the other reason was, along with like different products and stuff, like if you see an iPhone or a can of Coke or something like that, like most of those things people will represent a value to. So you know how much it's going to be to go to, or go and buy an iPhone. Like it's going to cost you about $1,000 or $2,000 these days, right? Whereas if you go buy a knockoff, it'll be X amount. So people can assign value to that. The beauty of having a business and creating your own brand is that you determine your own price. So when people would call us and say, hey, are you guys just a CrossFit gym? Like, why are you $80 a week and everyone else is $50 a week? And it's like, well, what other gyms did you call? And they'll talk about, the one down the street. And I'll say, oh, do they only offer a CrossFit program? And they'll say, yeah, like it's just a CrossFit gym. And I'm like, oh, well, CrossFit is one of the 5 programs that we offer. We also have strongman and endurance and whatnot. And that's part of what we do as our brand. So it just sort of breaks that price ceiling as well. And you can sort of define yourself as a more premium product within the marketplace. And finding that point of difference as a gym is really hard, especially when you're called CrossFit and there's like 14,000 other CrossFit gyms, right? Yeah. So that was our reason.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. And I think that's really what it does come down to. Like, the name in itself is awesome. It did bring a lot of people to start with, but now it seems to be almost a scary standpoint, like you said, for the middle-aged professional who just wants to come in and just get fit. And although it's a system that works well, it can also be incredibly intimidating if you've never done much fitness beforehand. It's that whole mindset around it is I have to be fit before I can go and do CrossFit. So dropping 100%. That barrier of having the name CrossFit in your brand name can make such a difference. The other thing is that there's so many gyms like your F45s and your HIIT stations that are doing like fast, intense movements over a shorter amount of time, say for instance like a 30 or 40 minute class, that are doing well, but a lot of those classes potentially aren't as guided as say a CrossFit class might be. So that was another thing that the gym owners kind of did, that I like the gym that I'm in contact with, their chalk box. They were CrossFit Boss. They changed to chalk box, and that's what they kind of did, was they changed in the hope that they would also attract the members from say like your F45s and say, hey, we run express classes, but we're also going to be a lot more hands-on with you. We're going to actually take you through the movements. We're going to teach you new movements. We're going to go through a whole heap of different stuff. And so far, like anyone who's come across from say something like an F45, they stick around because they're getting a lot more help, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's only so much a TV can coach you at those
exactly
gyms,
right. Yeah. And only so much a cheerleader can do. Like if your coaches are not giving you some sort of cues and making you better across a week, I feel like there's time to question the membership.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how about for, like we talked briefly on the phone yesterday, and something you kind of touched on is that you've put a team in place and you've got a lot of coaches, and you're kind of there as a owner of the gym and kind of just there to be with the members and make sure that, I guess, kind of peruse around and make sure that everyone is all right and make sure that everything's going okay. How does that go for you? Like, is that actually how your role works? Like, obviously you'd have your own PTs and bits and pieces that you do as well, but how does your structured work? Like, how's your day-to-day look now?
Yeah, I have an answer for that, and like a smart ass answer. And I'll tell you the smart ass answer first, because a lot of people just think it's like a bit of a kid's job to run a gym, or like it's, like PTs are sort of kids, or like just, kid like adults. But essentially I'll say to these people who ask me that, like, what's your day filled with? Is it just training? I'll say, well, you know how whenever you need something done with finances, you send it to your accounting department, and then later on that day you might need something done for marketing, so you send over a message to the marketing department, and then there's a complaint sent in, so you need to contact your legal people, and then there's like some social media stuff that you need to attend to with work, so you send over a picture so they can post something on social media. Like, that's all me.
Yeah,
like all of that stuff is what I do every day. And when new stuff comes up, like a podcast or We're working with a local school, so I've got to draft up, like I was saying the other day, I've got to draft up a little pitch to parents in a school newsletter. Like, I didn't learn that as an aircraft maintenance engineer, like learning all of these things. Like it's all, there's so many different things, and you need to have someone within a business, and especially a gym business, who like thrives on wanting to learn that stuff and do that stuff, because everything will pop up at random hours and all sorts of different random tasks will pop up. And you also need, in my situation, I'm really lucky because my business partner really loves the coaching side of things. Yeah. So he loves to coach and PT and do that side of it. So he does, like 15-ish hours of coaching a week, and then our other coaches do the rest of it. So he's still very hands-on in the coaching, but he doesn't do any back-end stuff. So when his pay goes in, and when this gets done, and the ATO gets paid their BAS, and all these different things happen,
it's all your
like, he wouldn't even know, to be honest, that it's all happening.
Like, what's
he just
BAS
sees,
again?
Like, the reports. He just sees all the reports go through. So for anyone out there who thinks that gym owners don't do much, it's like drinking from a fire hose to start with. And then if you can create systems around like doing things on different days or set days every month,
dude, that's small business in general, right? Like, I mean, that's a lot of stuff that we had to come in and grind our teeth on to learn as well. But I mean, realistically, like you said, it's just coming down to structure and making sure you've got things set in place. And one of the best things I've ever done, or a few of the best things I've ever done, one was like read a few books around time management, and then actually putting shit into place to make sure that you're doing things. So, I mean, I'm pretty reliant on my calendar for what a day looks like, and I'll have my recurring things that happen every single week, and it comes up at 9 o'clock on Monday that I have to do this, and this, and I'm like, okay, perfect. And that's what I go and do. And then I never thought I was much of a list person until I started writing lists. And then all of a sudden I was getting so much more done in a day. And a day becomes a lot more structured, and it comes down to, if you're structured, you've actually got more time. And this is a lot of stuff they probably talk about in military and back in your Navy days, where it's like logistics of anything. If you can figure it all out to a T, everything's going to run smoothly. Whereas if it's just on the run, like, oh yeah, whatever, we'll figure it out, that's when stuff just doesn't happen. And that's when you begin to sink, because you're not being able to keep your head above water. Yeah,
100%. The other thing I'll add to that as well is I'm a massive list person, and we've got software where we communicate with each other via Slack as a team. And we're also using another piece of software called Notion, which is like Trello or Asana. Yeah. So it's like a
task-based sort of thing.
Yeah, so you can see where everyone's with different things. Yeah. So we use that as a team. But the big thing for me was like when those recurring tasks do come up, it's easy to get sidetracked by other stuff that comes in, like a membership email that comes in and it flashes up on your inbox. So all of that stuff now, when I set myself a task, I ask Siri to set a timer for whatever time I need to do that certain task, whatever I feel it requires. I have her tell me, or him, whatever voice it is at the time, tell me when it's time to finish. And if anything comes up during that time, I literally have these little post-it notes in front of me, and I just write down all the stuff that comes up, even if it's silly thoughts in my head, like of things to do or marketing ideas or whatever. It all just gets written down there and just stuck to somewhere. And then I come back to that afterwards and put it maybe into a task of its own. But that was one of the things that used to kill me, because I see different shiny balls all day. And I'd just be like, going crazy, going all these different directions. And I'd get nothing done. So that's been a huge help for me.
That's like the theory of, if you wake up middle of the night and you think you're going to remember your incredible thought that you've had, like, you never just rely on your brain to get it there. It's so worthwhile writing it down. So I like that.
Have a notebook.
Yeah, no, that's super good. That's something I always have. I've always got a notebook with me. It's literally right here, and I've got different notebooks for everything. Like, I've got a notebook for my podcasts, which I've got here, and then my actual like everyday journal. And in that, something I do is I'll write down a power list for myself each day, which is the 5 most critical things I need to get done in that day. And so, like, it's not like you'd put down, today I'm going to lose 10 kilos, because that's not something you can do in a day. So it's things that you actually need to get onto in that day that's going to move you forward the best. And I think the best way to look at it is with those 5 critical tasks is, once you've done those 5 critical tasks, that's essentially your day done to an extent. Like, there's always those little things you need to touch up on, like the membership emails and bits and pieces that might come through. But it's like, if I can get those 5 things done in a day, my day is a complete win. Like, I've done really well as an individual to get through that. And that's not my thing. That's something I learned from other people, and it's worked incredibly well for me because it's like it gives you a real focus, and it's almost like you don't want to stop until you've had those 5 things done as well.
Yeah, sometimes it keeps you up till midnight to
Yeah,
get those things done, but
it does, which is also ridiculous.
You got to suffer those days, but everyone does. So.
Which leads me into like finding a balance. At what points did you was there a point in your business where you just kind of thought, you know what, all I do is business? I need to find something else to be able to balance me back out. And I mean, that's not necessarily always a bad thing, because sometimes you do need to grind your teeth and be in the thick of it, and you kind of take that on as being a business owner. But at the same time, there needs to be a standpoint where you bring back your own health and your own mental health and your own sleep and that side of things, where we are the people who are at the forefront of it, saying, hey, this is what you should be doing. And maybe potentially we are not doing it ourselves because we're just trying to grind and get through. So at what point did you potentially get to that and say, well, I need to stop, I need to take a step back, and I need to find my own balance?
Yeah, I really like that question. It was probably about 6 months into owning the gym. We weren't I couldn't really pay myself too much. I literally had close to $10,000 in my bank account, and I was paying myself $300 a week, living in Sydney, had a mortgage, didn't have a job except for the gym because I'd quit my job to move in and make it work. And yeah, so obviously at that point in time, it was all hustle for the gym, just get everything going. And in 2014 when we opened as well was a year I was at my peak fitness, because I just competed at the regionals when they were still around. That's the old school now. But yeah, so I was at my fittest and strongest that I'd ever been. And then going down this road, I was took maybe 6 or 12 months to get to not the most unhealthy, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near as fit as I used to be at the start of the gym. And then once we enlisted a mentor and a business coach, he really helped with that. He just reminded us of that old saying to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others. So he sort of helped us carve out some time of our own and, do the things that we really value and we want, and work on our relationships and our net worth and these sorts of things, and did some Tony Robbins style personal development with us. Yeah. And yeah, that's where we learned that we needed to have that involved, because if we were feeling better about ourselves and more confident and comfortable in our own skins and whatever else, then we could help our clients a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
And then that sort of led us down to running retreats for our clients. And it was out of necessity for ourselves to go away and enjoy those things and enjoy the training and stuff and do this personal development work there, that we sort of dragged others along and made it a profitable venture of our own. Yeah. So yeah, it can really weigh you down, but 6 to 12 months in, that was the hard grind. Yeah. Nowadays, 5 years into business, the way that looks is, I don't have notifications on my phone except for text messages and Facebook messages and stuff, where family and friends will message me too. But emails I check only a couple of times a day. We knew when we were contacting each other, we're both the same like that, I guess. Yeah. There's a couple of times a day I check it. And then there's 1 or 2 slots during the week where I'll go and play golf for 4 hours on a weekday morning or a weekend. Yeah. And I put my phone in my golf bag and I just don't look at it for 4 hours. And that's, it's very hard. It's taken me a couple of years to be able to do it and not to take it out and check stuff halfway through or whatever. But just knowing that everything's in a good systemized place where I can do that. It was hard training to start with. It
definitely is. And it's such a hard thing to kind of come around. I actually just want to read a little thing. So a marketer that I follow quite a lot, Dean Jackson, and I actually went and did a day with him in Sydney a few years ago. And it was really good, really insightful. It's kind of like working with a mentor and figuring out a few different things. But he sends out regular emails. One of the emails he sent the other day was golf. And that was the title. And I was like, this is interesting. And he talked about, as a business owner, he always had the time to go and play golf, and it was 4.5 hours from him leaving his house to going to the clubhouse, signing in, playing his rounds of golf, and getting back to home. And he kind of said he was always out of time until until it came to golf, and he always had the 4.5 hours of time for golf. And he's like, well, why don't I turn this into an acronym? Like, this is something I need to use. So the G is for the goal. When you play golf, you've made up your mind that that's the goal. You're going to go and play golf, and that's it. That's the goal. Is you're going to go play in the time that it takes to play. You're going to go home, and then your goal is done. Next, he says the O is for your optimal environment. So setting up your environment. And this is things we've kind of been talking about already. Is like, when you go and play golf, you're on the field, like you're on the green, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else that's happening. Like you said, your phone's in the bag, and it's away, so you're not distracted. And it's the same thing. How do you set up that optimal environment to make sure that your goal is getting achieved? The L is limited distractions. So once again, making sure you're not getting distracted while you're going. And then F is for the fixed time frame. And I just thought that was such a cool little email. Like, it's just a handy little tip. And it's like, of course, and it doesn't have to be a hard thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can just be so simple. I think the problem is that we do try to make things too big and too bizarre, whereas really it's like, hey, that's a small goal, and going and playing golf, even though 4 hours might seem like a lot to some people, that can be all it takes in 1 week for you to feel better, and for you to be able to give back to everyone else. Because realistically, how many bad experiences do you have with happy people? There's not many, right? Like, usually you're going to have a shitty experience with someone who's had a shit night's sleep, who hasn't looked after themselves, who's, I don't know, angry because they're not happy in their own body, angry because they're stressed, and just an individual that's not happy in general. Whereas if you can look after yourself, you're typically going to be a person that can give back to everyone else. And it's just reiterating what you were saying before. But I mean, that's something that we actually use as, I guess, a bit of a marketing point, because being a mum and being a dad and being the best person in your workplace, it only comes from when you're looking after yourself. And one thing of looking after yourself is nutrition and training, and sleep and stress and mindset and hydration and outside time. Like, there's all these things that fall into these categories, and that's kind of something that we've always touched on, because I know I feel better when I'm eating right, when I'm training right, when I'm sleeping right. And then I know that when I give that to other people, they are exactly the same. So it's always kind of been a really easy point, a really easy standpoint, because it's something that you can just tick a box and say, yes, actually, I felt better when I ate better. And yes, I felt better when I slept better. And yes, I felt better when I was hydrated. And yes, I feel better after every training session I have. But no, I don't feel better when I go and have a drinking weekend. Or no, I don't feel better when I stayed up all night watching YouTube clips instead of going to sleep. Or no, I don't feel better when I'm in a shitty mindset or mind space. So how do I change those things? And it's just about focusing and setting up routines. And it's kind of going back to everything we've been talking about this whole podcast.
Yeah. It's I like the no that you're using there. It reminds me of like, obviously as a gym, you have lots of transformations in, like, within your walls, like people, changing and losing a whole lot of weight or gaining more confidence or whatever those things are. But one of the more powerful ones that I noticed is this one guy, and it was just a statement that I used, and I didn't really mean for it to make such a big impact on him, but it obviously did, because he still uses it today. But essentially, he had a goal of squatting 300 pounds. He wanted to back squat 300 pounds. And he said, like, what's going to help me get there? And I was like, well, you just need to ask this one question, and you're going to have an answer of yes or no to the questions that you ask. And if it's a no, you don't do it. And if it's a yes, you can go about it, and it's going to help you get there. And it was, is doing this thing going to help me back squat 300 pounds?
Yeah.
Is saying yes to Matty and going out drinking piss all night tonight going to help me back squat 300 pounds?
Yeah.
Yes or no? No, obviously. So he didn't go and do it. And just by running everything in his life through that filter, it helped him reach that goal, and significantly more now. And yeah, like I didn't even mean for it to be like that, but it was like, yeah, this like word of wisdom that I somehow came up with.
But I mean, you apply it to anything in life, right? And it becomes a really easy black and white, yes or no.
Yeah. Is having the notifications on my phone on all day, every day, going to help me be less stressed? No.
Yeah.
Don't have them on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Choose 2 to 3 times in the day that you want to look at those things when you're ready to read those notifications or membership cancellation emails or membership hold emails or people complaining about something emails or, objecting to your DA. Choose the time that you're going to do that when you're feeling good, not when you've just experienced a high in the gym and there's something really good going on, and then all of a sudden you just get brought back to earth.
Plummeted, yeah.
Straight away. Yeah. Like, enjoy those moments and not get distracted.
Yeah, definitely. I go one step further and I have my phone on silent at all times as well, which is not necessarily the best thing for business, but I always make a phone call back. And if it's really important, they'll leave a message and I'll get that as well. Like at the end of the day, being unreachable is not a bad thing. And you get to reach them back on your terms rather, which is also a good thing. So yeah, that's something that I kind of put into place a while ago. So I got rid of all my notifications and I found that wasn't enough because I was easily enough to it's easy enough to look at your phone and be like, oh, well, I've got 10 Facebook notifications or whatever. And then you go and look at it because you heard it come up. Whereas you get rid of a notification, you get rid of the sound, you get rid of everything. Sorry, what would happen is I'd look on, like I'd get a text message, for instance, and you'd check it. And then all of a sudden you'd see that you had a notification on Facebook and then it starts that wormhole. Whereas when you don't even have the sound popping up, like it's just when you check your phone, it's when you check your phone. It just works out so much easier.
100%.
So going back... for you, like if you could go back to Shaun 5 years ago before he started the gym or when he just first started the gym, what would be the things that you'd maybe change or whisper in his ear like, hey dude, you should try all this instead of doing it this way? Is there anything that you kind of really change with your beginnings to even just anywhere along the way?
Yeah, I would have hired a mentor sooner. So I wouldn't have waited so long, or it was only sort of 6 to 12 months into owning the business that we got into it. But I would have, enlisted the help of somebody who's been there and experienced that and paid for their help much sooner. Because I feel that, like, you know, we use it as coaches in the gym, like we're helping people. And these business people and business coaches are there to help people like us in the situations that we're in, like Dean Jackson for you. I've heard he's actually quite good. I've had a couple of friends go and see him. But yeah, that'd be my first bit of advice, would be to go back and get some help sooner. And then I guess stemming from that is whether it's like the mentor that helps you with that, or the business coach or whatever, or just from you practicing a little bit, but just being confident in your own ability. Like, especially with people who are sole business owners, like I don't think you should own a business by yourself. Like, you need to have someone there, or at least a mentor to help you. Like, get someone who is like works well with you, like Matt and myself. Like, he really enjoys the coaching and I really enjoy the business side of things and doing the back end stuff. Like, find someone who complements you in that and like figure out those strengths and weaknesses much sooner, because it took us a while. Like, I'd have him doing emails and stuff and he wouldn't get back to them for like 4 or 5 days. And I'm there like, what are you doing? Like, get back to them. And then I'm coaching and I'm just like really not enjoying it as much as he would. So it's like, why are we doing these wrong things? Like, let's just like stick to our own lanes at what we're really good at and go from there. So yeah, that'd be 2 things. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. I really like that. I mean, the other thing I want to add to the mentor side of things is something I used to do was I listened and watched in too many spaces. So I like, because there's 1,000 coaches out there and there's 1,000 bits and pieces that you can pull inspiration from. And the best thing I think I ever did was single focus inspiration instead. What is that? A train?
Nah, some angle grinder or something. The window is closed, so hopefully it's not too loud.
No, that's cool. I was like, that. It sounded like train brakes. I'm like, oh, it's bizarre. Anyway, yeah, like single focus, and it's the same for doing anything really. Like, we're not good at multitasking as humans. Like, even if you say that you are, you're not. But really what it comes down to is just having a single point of focus. And it comes to the same from when you're pulling inspiration from certain people. Having a mentor and having one mentor is really good, because you're pulling just from them and you're focusing just on what they're saying. One thing I used to do is I had a mentor, and then I also listened to these different podcasts and I focused on all these different things. And what it did is it once again creates that sparkly thing that's pretty over here. So you go in that direction for 1 week, and then you're like, oh, hold up, that didn't work, so I'll go this way for that week. And something I've really started to do is, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'll focus in, like, I've got my hobby podcast I listen to and stuff as well, but I like refrain to listen to them just on weekends, for instance, and I'll only listen to my business podcast on these days of the week, because they're the days I need to focus on the business. So it's kind of interesting, just having that single point focus can really help. And the other thing to think of, and this is something you said that you did before, was you go out for breakfast with some other business owners quite regularly. And doing that, I think, is really good, because people in your own space, or people who own business in general and do business in general, are going to have ideas. And it might be the fact that, like I meet up with a mindset coach he's a memory coach, and I meet up with him once every month, if not every fortnight, and we just talk business and just talk things that have been working well for us. And he's like a YouTube sensation. Like he has like 50,000 followers that follow every single video he's ever done, and we just talk like, hey, this is what you should try in your videos. I'm like, that's great, thank you. And I'll just put that little thing in there. I'll say, hey, this is what's been working for me, like sending an email like this. And he's like, oh wow, that's really cool. And just having those little ideas you can bounce off of each other, and it works in the same place. Like, if you want to be a better individual in the gym, train with the people who are the best in the gym, and soon you're going to catch up to them. If you want to if you want to be better at business, work with people who are better than you at business. And it's that mindset of living off of the shoulders of giants, right? You can always take a quick step to get there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the gym owner breakfast that we do is really cool, actually, because there's a couple of us that own CrossFit boxes or CrossFit gyms, and there's a movement gym there. There's a female only gym there.
Sick.
And we're all sort of far enough suburb wise that we're not sort of pushing into each other.
Yeah.
But even if we did a little, like, it doesn't matter, because there's how many million people in Sydney. Like, the 2 people that go to their gym from mine isn't really going to matter.
No, exactly.
I'm just glad they're training with one of my friends, and maybe they can refer me people later. But
which is such a good
just
mindset.
Being able to, just like hearing the stuff that goes on with them, and knowing that it's not just me that happens to, like people trying to take advantage of you, or, you know, other businesses trying to hustle you for stuff, or, you know, all the, like, just anything that goes on, just the shitty nitty gritty stuff that goes on day to day. Yeah. Because there's only so much you can sort of complain to your partner before they'll end up leaving you. And at least these guys are a sort of a shoulder to lean on in that. Yeah. And they're going through the same stuff too. So it's not just you, and it sort of gives you good perspective on those issues when they do arise. Yeah.
And so, I mean, we'll wrap up in a sec, but final few questions. What are maybe some of the things that grind your gears most that members might do? Like, for instance, a good example of this is the gym that I train at. He absolutely hates if someone rocks up late. Like, he despises it. And he'll let them know too, like, oh, you're late again, and like kind of digs into them, not in a way of saying like, well, you have to do 10 burpees because you're a minute late or anything like that, but that's a good example, I think. So what are maybe some things that, if listeners are from gyms, for instance, which they will be, what are things that maybe gym goers could be doing better?
One of the things that sort of was instilled in me in the military was you'd have a brief at the start. So obviously all gyms have, or all functional fitness type gyms will have a brief at the start, even if it is to tell you to look at the television and follow what that person's doing. But they still have a brief. And in my opinion, it is super rude to talk when that is happening. Yeah. It's that person is trying to do the best at their job and give you the best explanation, context, tell you what sort of stimulus you're trying to hit for that workout for the day, and just set you up for success in that training session. And you're paying them as a health professional to do that for you. And then to talk to your mate about how many beers you drank on the weekend while that's going on. It's just like, really?
I 1,000% agree. Yeah. I absolutely hate that. Yeah.
It's like literally like 2 to 3 minutes of your day to listen to that person, and you might get more out of the workout if you shut your mouth and open your ears.
And typically they're the people that come and ask all the questions during the class, and as well of like, oh, so hold up, at what point do I do my deadlifts? And oh, how many reps is it? And all those questions come out later because they weren't listening for that 2 minutes, like you said.
100%. We all have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Yeah. And most people don't use them in proportion.
I love that quote. It's so good. Oh, dude, that's been awesome. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. Let's maybe just send some people to like your socials and that sort of thing, like your website and your socials. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I fancy myself as a little bit of a writer, and cool. I like to write a little blog. So I do that a few times a week. I used to do it every single day, but with my mounting task, I can no longer do that. I've just got disappointed when I didn't, so I've selected a few days. But I write that because like one day I want to write a book, and I don't really know what I want to write about. So I'm just writing lots and lots and just putting the sets and reps in now to practice being able to formulate ideas and just write them rather than talk about them. So that's just acceleratestrength.com.au, and you can just find it on the blog. So that's me putting my thoughts in words. And then, everyone can just find us at the normal social channels like Accelerate Strength on Instagram, Facebook. My Instagram, I guess, is just Shaun Diachkoff.
Yeah.
If you can spell it, then you'll be able to find me. But if you can't spell it, you won't find me.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, just the standard socials.
Dude, perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was a good little chat, and I hope you guys, listeners, got something out of it. And I think there's definitely some good insight into it. Whether you're a gym goer or not, whether you're a business owner or not, there's plenty of things that you can take away and put into your day-to-day life. So, Shaun, thanks heaps, dude.
Cool, man. Thanks so much. Looking forward to having you on our podcast.
You.
Visit thechieflife.com for all of your nutrition coaching needs, your own personalized meal plan, as well as how you can get involved with one of our 7-pillar retreats.